Bonjour Watcher, this is Johnny Bang of 45 and welcome back to the foot of Grisaia. In the last episode, accident happened and her father died, while her mother is still unconscious, miraculously. Why I feel like it's some kind of deja vu. It's still flashback by the way. As soon as I emptied my mind, the headache vanished with astonishing speed. My breath came easier and I could feel my heartbeat gradually returning to its normal rhythm. I guess that's what made her stress. I was wrong. There's something wrong with my body after all. Nothing like this ever happened to me before that day. As my mind began to reach a conclusion I didn't want to accept, I involuntarily recalled the agony I had just endured. Maybe later she would turn mad like that, and yeah, we don't know, we see her. If I remember what happened, that pain will come back. The ensuing wave of terror wiped all else from my mind. Pulling the blankets over my head in search of refuge, I waited for the morning to come. And it's still flashback. Did that accident they keep talking about really happen? Several days later, that was believed ringing in my mind. I was taken to visit my mom in an intensive care unit for the first time. After carefully disinfecting my hands with alcohol, the nurses dresses me up in a hospital gown just like theirs, and finally ushers me to the room. And just as they told me, my mother was inside. But the person lying on the bed in front of me wasn't the mom I knew. There was a huge oxygen mask covering her mouth, bandages were wrapped all around her head, numerous tubes were sticking out of her body, connecting all sorts of machines. The sight reminds me of nothing so much as the Frankenstein monster I seen in the movie. But this was reality. That day the accident happened exactly as they told me, and now my mom was sleeping in a nest of machines. Uh-oh. In the instant I finally perceived that undeniable fact as reality, I was struck by a powerful wave of nausea. The hospital room grew darker before me, and in that darkness, a fuzzy image flickering before my eyes disappeared for a briefest of moment, only to re-emerge just like some pair is indistinct horror bobbling up and down just beneath the surface of a muddy lake. Unable to endure the sickness swelling from the core of my body, I vomited up the contents of my stomach on the spot and was hastily carried out of the room by the nurse who accompanied me. Sorry for vomiting. After that, I tried to return to the ICU numerous times, but the outcome was always the same. The moment I saw my mother in the hospital bed, I experienced severe nausea and was quickly removed from the room. My daughter took these events very seriously and eventually forbade me from visiting mom for the time being. That night, I lay awake in bed until, well, after the lights has been turned out, unable to fall asleep. I hadn't suffered any real injury, so sitting around all day often left me with too much physical strength. Sometimes I would go an entire day without feeling hungry or lie awake in bed for hours. And today, the things I heard during the daylight were also weighing heavily on my mind. I lay in my bed, staring out at the non-familiar tiles on the ceiling and thought about my parents. So she's trapped in a cage. She might never open her eyes again. Sometimes I do overhear my uncle talking about it with the nurse in lower tones. Apparently, mom was sick with something called a persistent vegetative state. From what I could figure out, that meant the possibility she wake up again was really, really low. Mom's going to be asleep forever and ever. In other words, I'll never be able to talk to her again. Bitter frustration welled out inside me at the thought. But no matter how I try to deny the reality, nothing will change. Even my parents' jobs will no longer keep us apart. The blissful days I wish for will never return. I know you have regret because you scold your parents on that day, and also that day your parents died. The more I understood the station they have in my despair grew. Tears spilled recklessly from my eyes. My mind was filled with a miserable new question: why had it turned out like this?
私の誕生日だったのに、本当ならゆうくんと一日中遊んで、去年よりもずっと楽しい日になるはずだったのに。
But in reality, I will be able to see him. And because of that sudden accident, my dad was there and mom was sleeping forever. Everything I had been taken away from me in one horrible instant.
どうしてこんなことになったの？私。
ずるい。
どうして？
What? What the hell? When I squeezed my eyes shut in an attempt to escape the cruel reality of my situation, I thought I heard someone's voice in my head. Mom.
ねえ、サチ。どうしてあの時、家を飛び出してしまったの？
Holy shit. Is that a curse? Yes, it is mother's curse. A mother's curse.
どうしていい子にしていてくれなかったの？お母さんもお父さんもトラックにはねられて、とても痛かったのよ。
Don't show me a jump scare. This is not a horror visual novel. I know this is not a horror visual novel. Don't jump scare on me. And scream. Since the day I accepted that the accident has really happened, these feelings has been lurking unacknowledgedly in the depths of my mind. That accident happened because of me. If I listened to my parents and stayed in the house, they would have been in the street when the truck ran the red light. Even Yukun, I selfishly tried to manipulate him to come into the park. Maybe that's why he didn't show up. Maybe he just finally got sick with me. In other words, this is all your fault. Yes, your fault. I totally agree in this situation. If you don't act stubborn, then this wouldn't happen in the first place. Would not happen. As I spoke those words, the ringing in my ear returned for the first time in a while, harsher and shriller than ever before. A dull paralysis spread through my body, a very similar to what I used to experience before fainting from the over-exertion on the playground. But the venomous chill crawling up my spine clearly signified that this was something else entirely. Such shadowy and unfamiliar and malevolent was attacking my body. My heart thrummed violently in my chest, and in that moment, the world froze around me. The air was so cold, it was solid ice so frigid that, as to cause physical pain, my clenched teeth began to chattering loudly. My mouth opens wide. I desperately gulped down oxygen in little gasps, even breath, a painful struggle. I was wrong, and something even worse is coming next. The voice rang out in my mind again, as I knew it would.
Sachi, どうして?
I think her mom. Yeah, somehow. Did she met her mom or not after that? To get this, what do you call the puzzle of that thing? Why? Damn. And so the nightmares began. Oh.
どう？さっちゃん、今日は食べられる？ごめんなさい。食べられません。そう。
2 weeks after that horrible night, it had become my daily routine to turn aside the spoonful of my food nurse offers me. At night, when the exhaustion overcame me, I was forced to relive the moment of my parents' accident over and over again. By now, I had completely lost the will to live. The nightmares didn't just play back my memories of that day. They caused me physical agony incomparable to any suffering I induced while awake. My appetite disappeared in a matter of days. And of course, I couldn't get any real rest. After about a week, my body had grown visibly frail, and my natural energy was replaced with lethargy and weakness. 2 days after, a concerned nurse reported the situation to my doctor. He came to my bedside and asked me about my shouting. Can you hear a voice for no one in particular? Can you see people who can't really be there? I'm pretty sure the question was mostly like that. And from my answer, I told Dr. no time at all and announced that I was suffering from a specific illness. To summarize in his words, a mental illness caused by a temporary exposure to catastrophically intense stress or mental illness. With that diagnosis, it became clear that I do suffer my own wound in that accident, and my previously scheduled discharge from the hospital was postponed indefinitely. Not that my state has produced any improvement so far. If anything, it was the opposite. The nightmare still tormented me recklessly, and my treatment has progressed to medication and the IV tube. Through the tube, the nutrients I needed to survive were pumped directly into my veins. Through powerful sleeping pills, they induced a temporary period of oblivious rest. It felt less like I was living and more likely I was being kept alive. One day, this stagnant routine was disrupted slightly. I learned that I have been given permission for an outing as a part of a new phase of my treatment.
それじゃあ、あっちの方を歩いてみようか。
I was given permission to leave the hospital, escorted by one of the nurses, on the condition that we stay anywhere from both my house and the site of the accident. Without a particular destination in mind, we walked aimlessly around the town. Unlike the hospital, which was constantly filled with a thrilling aseptic scene, the town smelled of the scenes of people living their ordinary lives. In the distance, I could hear the chattering of grade schoolers on their way home. For the first time in weeks, I wondered vaguely how my friends at schools were doing. The change of pace was unpleasant, but my feelings were as dark and clouded as ever. I knew all too well that the physical release of these moments was only temporary. Unless the doctor dragged me into unconsciousness, I see that dream again. The moment of the accident would flash before my eyes over and over, and my body would react as if it were really twitching in my bed. If I wake in the dream, I woke up with my eyes swollen and red. If I screamed out in the dream, I woke up with my throat raw. But worst of all, when the loop finally came to an end, my parents would raise their blood-covered face from the road and curse me, and incessant bitter rain of hateful words from which I was powerless to escape. Died instantly, and Mao lost consciousness soon after the accident. That last part of my dream was fake. I didn't understand that rationality, but every morning I awoke to find the further guilt resting slightly heavier on my mind. The border between reality and that cruel friction grew indistinct. It felt entirely possible that a horrible nightmare will stay with me for the rest of my life. I had committed the sin of disobedience. Yup. That dream was my punishment for treating my parents cruelly when they tried to celebrate my birthday with me. Yup. You have committed the sin of disobedience. You tried to kill yourself, right? I think she would kill herself later on, and then Yuji get hit by a knife. I think. I don't know. I don't spoil anything. It didn't matter how many times I apologized in my dreams. It didn't matter how much suffering those nightmares brought me. The guilt won't simply disappear. They had already grown very nearly unendurable. My heart and mind were on the verge of breaking outright. And instead, I couldn't find anything close to an answer. And as I whispered that please to myself, I noticed her parents and children walked slowly down the sidewalk toward us. Yuji! Her mother, her face clearly troubled, and her young son walked yankily rudely at her hand.
ねえ、ママ、カツオマンの人形買ってよ。だから、お人形はこの前買ったばかりでしょ。ああ、それでもカツオマンが欲しいの。ささみ怪人と戦わせるんだもん。もう、またそんなわがままを言って。いつまでも悪い子でいると、みんなマサヤのことが嫌いになって誰もいなくなっちゃうわよ。
Oh, don't tell that lie. You're a bad boy, so that means I'm a bad girl. The moment I heard those words, it was as though an icy hand had seized my heart.
やだ、そんなのやだよ。じゃあ、お人形は我慢しないとね。わかった。そうやってマサヤがいい子でいてくれれば、お人形もまた買ってあげるからね。うん。
The mother and child passed by my side, their expressions completely transformed to smiles. What happened? Yes, I'm a bad girl.
そうか。そうだったんだ。
I was meant to be all alone.
こうなってしまったのは、やっぱり私のせい。私が言うことを聞かない悪い子だったから。あんなことが起こった。
So that's why you become a robot who obey everyone's order.
お父さんも、お母さんも、ゆうくんも、みんな、私の前からいなくなったんだ。
I muttered those words under my breath as if to persuade myself they were true, and in that moment I thought I could hear a switch being flipped inside my head.
だったら、いい子になろう。 今度こそ本当のいい子に。
And that's how Sachi transformed. After the episode, my body underwent a mysterious change. I went to bed that night without any sleepy pills, but not until the next morning without seeing the nightmare. Since the dream began, falling asleep without medication had always meant a night of terrible suffering. This sudden acceptation to the role surprised me greatly, but I didn't really have any idea why the nightmare would have started to stop all of a sudden. Maybe I had happened to pull the lucky straw this one. As it turned out, however, these worries were unjustified. The nightmares grew steadily less frequently and my physical condition improved as well. Observing these changes happily, a nurse told me, "Keep it up, don't let those bad dreams come back again." By way of encouragement, I promptly focused on engraving those words into my mind.
悪夢を見ないようにしないといけない。悪夢を見ないようにしないといけない。
But you see that dream already. Every time I whispered the mantra of myself, a voice rang out in my head. You must have been disobedient. A good girl does what she told, a bad girl doesn't. So that's the mantra. Stop doing that. That scraped me out. And when the voice fell silent, that scene flashes through my mind for the briefest of instants. As a warning, a reminder. I never ever wanted to feel that way again, and so I was determined to become a good girl. But unfortunately, Sachi will turn bad girl once again. The darkness rise again. If I'm a good girl, I won't lose anything. If I'm a good girl, maybe Mommy and Dad will forgive me someday.
いい子にならなきゃ。いい子にならなきゃ。いい子にならなきゃ。いい子にならなきゃ。
That is creepy. Over time, my mind was filled with those words. When someone asked me to finish my dinner, I cleaned my plate, even meant finding bad downstairs to stuff food into my stomach. Before long, I was even capable of willing myself to unconsciousness if someone told me to go to sleep right away after the lights out.
はい、わかりました。
Whenever I say those words and ignored my answers, the nurse called me a good girl with smiles on their face. And whenever I heard that phrase, I could feel my sins growing ever so slightly lighter, my sense of self ever so slightly weaker. And a certain place. It took some time afterward, but eventually I was discharged from the hospital, conditioned on my return for through regular checks-up. And how did she end up to that school? The reason naturally was that my painful nightmares had grown extremely rare, and my sleep and habits had returned to normal. The rapid and dramatic improvement in my symptoms did quite surprise my doctor and nurses, but I'm fairly sure the adults convinced themselves my little trip outside the hospital for a change of pace has to succeed beyond their expectations. However, the doctors did think it's best for me to leave my hometown, and that May for February it held back. It was decided that I would live with my uncle Akira and his wife at their home in Niigata. I never visited my uncles even once until the day I moved there, but I didn't feel any anxiety about my new life in a new land. I didn't know that my uncle and auntie were kind people, and above all, I had clearly defined the path to follow. No matter what circumstances, I was determined to be a good girl. After all, my new competition had virtually cured me of those unendurable nightmares. Since Uncle Akira was kind enough to carefully prepare everything beforehand, the move went without a hitch. We decided that I would transfer to a nearby school after my first week in Niigata. That means, as it turned out, it was a modest-sized school with a fairly small student body. I was the first transfer student in recent memory, and received a significant amount of curiosity gains as a result. Heard she got caught in something nasty. Did somebody say she got bullied very badly at the last school? At times I heard some rumor whisper in the hallway. Not that any of it bothered me, it's like I was entirely focused on making up for the time I lost in the hospital. I didn't even touch a textbook for some time. A good girl just went in school, so as to keep myself from diving with the image, I threw myself fervently into my classes, filling every waking moment with study and regretting the need of sleep.
おめえすげえな。なんでそんげん勉強できるが？あっちで塾とか通ってたが？塾には行ったことないけど、勉強は嫌いじゃないから。へえ。じゃあさちちゃんって頭がいいがね。じゃあ今度わからないところがあったら教えてくれさ。わかった。
Over time, my diligent new approach to life changed the way my classmates view me. By the time we advanced to the next grade, many looked at me with respect in their eyes. In addition, on the theory that a good girl helps others, I would proactively approach those who seemed trouble and offer my assistance. Just by chasing after my idea in this way, at some point a crowd gathers around me. As in my previous, everybody in the class started calling me Sacha, and I made lots of friends who would invite me out to play. My uncle would be worried about how I adapt to all the living in the country was very pleased by all this, and my teachers offered consistent praise for my efforts in the classroom and help of people. I think something happened at there also later on, which is why the uncle and their grandparents would send her to that school. The harder I tried, the nicer everyone was, and I tried very hard. The confidence and smile face reminds me of the happiest day of my life when my parents had been kind to me. I grew steadily more convinced that my new way of thinking was correct. But such universal, unreserved affection for good people doesn't last beyond childhood. As it warned me of that fact, when I advanced to the next level of school, I found the emotional charge, malicious characteristics are also waiting for me. After a few months, I got truly settled in my new school. Once again, I had attracted a crowd of friendly faces. For the most part, they asked me to see my homework for assistance in some extracurricular or help with their studies. And as I reliably satisfied that the number of people approaching me steadily increased. Apparently, there is a super talent saint in Class 1C. Such rumors spread across the school and I became something of minor celebrity. And in time, I began to encounter those who found that it was some. Among them, again, he told me Nakano from my class. Most never heard a delinquent and she kept herself largely aloof for the rest of the class, so it came as something of surprise when one day she suddenly calls out to me.
ねえ、コミネ。今日の掃除当番変わってよ。
いいよ。
そう。じゃあお願いね。
It begins with a trivial favor, no different from those I do perform for countless others. But he told me Nakano repeat that frequently every time it was her turn to clean the class, so of course I continued to readily accept. And one day after this pattern has continued for some time.
コミネ、今日もお願いね。
いいよ。どうかした？
あんたさ、毎回掃除当番変わらせられて、なんとも思わないわけ？
思わないけど、どこか変かな。
だってさ、私は明らかにあんたのことパシリにしてるんだよ。それっていじめじゃない？
いじめはいじめられる側に自覚があれば成立するって言われているけど、だとしたら私にその自覚はないからいじめじゃないんじゃないかな。
それ本気で言ってんの？
だって人の言うことを聞くのがいい子で聞かないのは悪い子でしょ。私はその考えに従ってるだけだから。
That principle.
じゃあ何？あんた、私が永遠に掃除当番変われって言ったら変わってくれるわけ？
中野さんがそう言うならそうするよ。
へえ、言うじゃん。じゃあさ、掃除当番は変わらなくていいから一人でこの学校の窓全部拭いて回ってみてよ。
欲しい。
どう？できないでしょ。
いいよ。
Although I accept Makao's request, she didn't seem particularly pleased. In fact, she split her tongue in disgust and stalked right out of the classroom. What was she so angry about? Taking the matters over, I took out a supply of cleaning implements from my locker. And just at the right time, I made my way around the classroom, cleaning the windows. Then, I heard close, I moved to the first room, the hallway, and the first when she said forgot. Once the school was closed, however, my face was flooded somewhat by the need of high profitability teachers, not necessarily my task. If I had something, I could do wiping it, dog its life. My arms quickly grew heavier for the sustained effort of reaching out in the high window. After a few hours, my shoulder was screaming with pain, so I kept my hands moving. I had my direction, I had to obey them. My personal circumstances were irrelevant. My weight of my edge was softer than any matter of so long I still could move. If homework was become good, it was obviously reassess the situation and try to find an alternative means to accomplish my task. At that moment, wiping all the floor in this school clear to priorities above all else. When she found me in the hallway, next morning still wiping windows, she told me just open.
あんた、何やってるの？
何って言われた通りに窓を拭いてるんだけど。
言われた通りにって、まさか本当にあれからずっと学校の窓を拭いてたわけ？
さすがに学校が広いから今日の授業が始まるまでにっていうのは無理だったけど、もう少し時間をもらえればちゃんと終わるから。
For a brief moment, her light eyes went wide, and in the night she rose with laughter.
あん た。間違いなくいい子だよ。それは私が保証してあげる。
ありがとう。
お礼まで言って。こいつ本物だわ。コミネ、窓拭きはここで終わりでいいわよ。
そうなの？
ええ、その代わり今日からあんたは私の奴隷になりなさい。
Don't tell me this girl asked her to kill someone. Then she was captured. Enter the school.
わかった。
やっぱりね。じゃあこれから私に対しては敬語を使うこと。それから私が何か命令をした時の返事ははい、わかりました。いい？
はい、わかりました。
そうそう、それでいいじゃん。えらいえらい。
ありがとうございます。
I didn't particularly hesitate at the prospect of becoming a slave. If that was what she wanted for me, and it was within my power to play that role, I had no reason to object. And so, having assumed the position of Hitomi's Nakano, the obedient minion carried out her orders, became the central elements of my new daily routine.
コミネ、あとはよろしくね。
はい、わかりました。
I can't quite remember how many times we repeated this exchange. It happened too often for me to be sure. My more common duties involved completing her homework by proxy, helping her cheat on a test, and arranging cruel plans against those she dislikes. There were other requests as well. Every once in a while she called me in the middle of the night simply to mock me for actually showing up, and after laughing with her friends she would send me right back home. But that was alright for me. With me, I was a slave, so all I need to concern myself was executing her commandments. No matter how difficult the orders she gave me, through carefully and diligent efforts, I would always find a method to carry them out. And as a seed, her mood often improved. On occasion, she would offer a few words of praises for her good girl. But more than anything else, simply obeying someone's instruction was pleasant in itself. By executing her orders, there was no need to think about anything else. The reason for those orders, the consequences of successfully carrying them out, anything and everything else was totally irrelevant. In those memories and those moments alone, the burden of guilt I carried with me was lifted from my shoulder, and the image I want to erase from my mind more than anything else stayed safe, very away. Therefore, there was nothing wrong about this. A good girl does what she's told to. I believe absolutely in those words. For me, they had become a kind of fate. However, not everyone saw things the same way. After about 2 years as a slave, my master began to show some signs of discontentment with our arrangement. When I answered her orders with a prompt yes, certainly enough, I could see a flash of irritation in her eyes. But as a result, I soon noticed that those orders had begun to escalate in scale and difficulty, and when I returned to report my success, she responded only with a displaying grunt. Eventually, I asked her whether I'd done something to offend her.
何でもできることがムカつく。
And that was her answer. Naturally, I didn't quite whether I should fail every so often, but
はあ？あんた私のことバカにしてんの？
this is by only a more pronounced scowl.
でも失敗させてみるっていうのも悪くないわよね。じゃあさ、あんたに最後の命令を出してあげる。
Holy shit, what kind of order is that?
最後の命令。
そう。2週間後にある中間テスト。あれ、なくしてよ。
Holy shit!
テスト？
人の言うことを聞くのがいい子だって言うなら、こういうお願いも聞いてくれるよね。
Damn son, that's why she got exposed to that special school.
どうなの？やれるの？
はい、私はいい子ですから。
言ったわね。いい？一度やるって言ったんだから、絶対やんなさいよ。
Don't tell me she hacked or burned the paper.
後で、やっぱりできませんでした。すみませんって謝ってきても、私は絶対に許さないからね。
はい、わかりました。
From the moment I nodded my head, it was perhaps all but decided that I would end up in Mihama Academy. When she asked me if I was up for it, I heard a voice screaming "Don't" from some corner of my mind. But soon enough, as the image that day began to flicker its own warning before my eyes, that voice of cautious was obliterated without a trace. There was nothing left to stop me. For the next For the next few days, I practically racked my brains in search of the methods to get rid of the scheduled midterm tests. How about stealing the tests before they can copy them? No, even if I were to find the origins, the test will be recreated at most I will earn a brief delay. In that case, how about copying the test secretly and bring her the answers? No, why that might ensure her perfect score on the exam. The test themselves will be held as usual. Burn the school. The more ideas I ran through, the more I realized the enormous difficulty of the task I had. My focus grew slowly more intense and obsessive. My thoughts ran in circles. To make matters worse, as the day of the test grew in, solely because I began to see the familiar nightmares I had thought behind me. And so driven slowly but surely to desperation, I finally arrived at my conclusion. Oh! Yup. And she burned the school. The moment I spoke those words, my ears filled with a high-pitched, almost nostalgic buzzing, and my conscience was shrouded in fog. When I came to my senses, I was standing inside my school, and my face was a pile of chaotic and the same sort of uncle stockpiling as a few for our hard hitters. So I had carried them over from my house to this building over the castles of numerous round trips. And indeed, my arms and shoulders were throbbing in agony. The situation was clear now, moving as to possess. I emptied the can all around the building where I felt like madness, ignoring the protest of my exhausted body. And then I stood in my closet and set the fire. Holy shit! This is a good scene. Instead, I dropped my match into a chaos in flash spark. I flipped the switch on the stove hot. The fire spread every down the path of oil and to the grate. The second I the fire spread through. Feeding all the wooden walls and desk. Consuming the paper bags, wood floors and my bags that left behind the fence. Very tense before my eyes, even from the distance I felt their heat coming. As I was there, it was because light was able to breathe the air. The chill sound of fire alarm began to resound throughout the building. The fact that I had studied on yesterday was supposed to be in relation to the sea of fire. And that part of my world vanished before my eyes. I had nothing particular. Ah, look at it burn. The thought running through my mind was nothing but the infection of a casual spectacle. Harry told me that it would be possible to stay in this place any longer. I could exit the castle through the nearest window. As I lowered myself, I could hear the sound of the distant side. How far would the flames reach before their fire engine arrived? How much damage before they can extinguish the place? No, it's no longer matter. The midterm exam would doubtless be cancelled regardless. The midterm test would doubtless be cancelled regardless. I carried out my order. I did what I was told. I was still a good girl. Yes! And as long as I'm a good girl, nothing else matters. So this is Sachi's past, huh? Although the fire brigade rushed to the scene and extinguished the flames before the buildings could suffer much structural damage, the main class were reduced to chartered ranks. As it contains the highest concentration of flammable materials in the building, the faculty room suffered particularly severe damage, and the scheduled midterm examination had to be postponed indefinitely. Rumors that Sachi has been responsible spread quickly throughout the town, and when interviewed by the police, she immediately confessed to total responsibility for the incident. However, her motivation was unclear, and testimony from her classmates revealed that Sachi has been subject to chronic bullying. Her confession was deemed unreliable, and suspicion began to rest on her tormentors. In the end, the investigator couldn't find any decisive evidence to identify the responsible victim, and the archives was closed without charges. Notably, Sachi unendowed was disturbed by her confession and abnormal behavior throughout the incident. They had her receive a comprehensive psychiatrist examination for a specialist, leading to a secondary diagnosis. Given her overall condition, they were told it would be ill-advised and potentially dangerous for Sachi to continue attending a normal school, so that they will arrange for her to transfer to Miyama Academy. In other words, witnessing the incident had damaged Sachi's mind far more severe than was immediately apparent. Considering what I know of her current mindset, I doubt she even regards setting that fire was a mistake. Today, Sachi remains under the guardian shades of her childless aunt and uncle and aunt. Her mother is still in the hospital, deep in a persistent coma. Oh, her mother is still alive. That would be a rough summary of how things currently stand. I tossed the papers down to the bench and looked up at the sky. In other words, there are a lot more of Sachi than what I have seen so far. Back then, the only thing I knew was Sachi's parents were busy with work and didn't pay much attention to her anymore. And these documents are busy like summaries pulled from Ichigaya's database. I have the basic facts in sufficient details to speculate, but it's hardly a comprehensive story. At the moment, Sachi is probably the only person in the world who knows the precise nature of the suffering that reshaped her personality so dramatically. Even so, there's one thing I can say for certain: she suffered an incredibly cruel and abrupt loss at a young age. These 6 filmy sheets of paper could possibly have contained everything she went through.
はい、私はお父さんもお母さんも大好きでした。
From the way Sachi spoke those words, I think they were absolutely true, and that means she saw the person she loved most in the world fatally injured before her eyes. In the reports, her parents are described as a hard-working couples who care deeply for their daughters. Their reputation in the neighborhood was excellent. Even without knowing the details of their relationship with Sachi, it's easy to understand that losing them would have been shocking and painful under any circumstances. What's more, it happened on her birthday, and from the days, it must have been the day after I said goodbye. At the time, my friendship with the girl in the playground had become my strongest source of emotional support. If the same had been true for Sachi as well, in a single day, she lost her closest family and her closest friend. So those words she is fond of, good girl, bad girl, she tried to drag me out of the playground with an arbitrary promise. She ran out of her house and that day without listening to her parents, and all of a sudden she found herself alone. Her thoughts process is difficult to imagine. I was a selfish, bad girl and everyone went away. From now on, I have to be a good girl and do what I'm told. Carrying to an extreme, there's no differences for turning herself to an obedient, thoughtless robot. When the teachers tell her to work hard and study, she works hard. When some teachers tell her to wear a uniform, she never takes it off. The old way and the intentions behind the orders are irrelevant. Performing that to the letter is the whole point. Doing what she told is an end in itself. Sachi was only a child at the time. This simplistic, obsessive obedience was the sole coping method she could find. The only way she could escape her regret and guilt. No one has the right to blame her for that. Sachi stopped thinking for herself as a self-defense mechanism. Her wounds were so severe that she lost the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. That wrapped absolutely allegiance to her principles culminate in the school arson incident. To take the most extreme possible, if someone unambiguously ordered Sachi to kill someone right now, she might commit murder without hesitation. Yes, Ken, you will die, Yuchi. I will make sure you die by Sachi. Then the commandment she imposed on herself is a dangerous thing, a brutal war as likely to harm as protect. All things considered, might have been lucky if that was only arson. The more people know about Sachi's abnormalities, the greater the risk of someone attempting to exploit it. An event like that was all but inevitable. From the same reason, it makes sense that she was transferred to this academy, where small students supporting limited contact with the outside world. The question now is whether I can actually do something with this knowledge. I might be sitting here and analyze the other people's abnormalities, but I'm not aware as just a person myself by any stretches of the imagination. Can I, of all people, help someone regain normality? If there is one thing that gives me hope, it's the expression I saw on the Sachi's face back then. Thinking over again, I'm even more firmly convinced that her smiles have always been artificial, forced things. But just once, something was clearly different, something that makes me think I can bring her back. Might sound like flimsy grounds for optimism, but at our first meeting, my master took me one look at me and declared, "We can still fix this one. That's why I'm here today." Don't you think my master told me something once? Accepting a favor isn't anything to be ashamed of, Kate, but not returning it is. There's no need to overthink this. From that perspective, it really made me really simple. Back then, such a present in my life saved me, and today I have a chance to repay the favor. That's enough for now.
変えようとしているのは小峰さんだけじゃないのかもしれないわね。
Hospital room. Oh, Sachi. Yeah.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Makina, you better stay away.
どうしたのよ、サチ？
これうなされてるのよね。
それにすごい汗。とりあえず起こしちゃった方がいいわね。
よくわからないけど、勝手にそんなことしちゃってもいいものなの？
夢を見てるくらいなら問題ないって。それにこのまま放っておいた方が体力奪われちゃうから。そうね。
じゃあ私が。ねえサチ、起きなさい。サチ。 ダメ、呼びかけたくらいじゃ起きてくれない。それならどいてチルチル、今度は私がやってみるのよさ。おいサッチンってば起きるのよさ。サチみちる様、よかった、目が覚めたんだな、サッチ。
それにマキちゃん。
他にもアマナイト黒いのも一緒なのよ。
Quick Frosting. Let me guess. Yumiko-chan.
それにここは。
ああ、三島崎にある病院よ。
病院。そうでした。私一度気を失って。
そう、それでお見舞いに来たら小峰さんがうなされていたから起こさせてもらったわ。
すみません、皆さんにご迷惑をおかけしてしまって。
さっちゃんが謝ることないって。
ねえサチ、あんたさっきの夢。
みちる、それ以上はダメ。
ああ、そっか、ごめんサチ。
どうしてみちる様が謝るのでしょうか。
本当に何でもないからあんたも気にしないでよ。
はい、わかりました。
まあほら、無事にさっちゃんが見つかってこうして話すことができたんだからよかったじゃん。
Well, actually, she's not okay.
アマネーの言う通りなのよ。サッチンがいなくなってめちゃくちゃ心配したのよさ。
私も探す手間くらいはかけたわね。
すみません、いろいろとご迷惑をおかけしてしまいまして。
ほらユーミンコ、あんたがそんなこと言うからまたサチが謝っちゃうでしょ。
私は本当のことを言ったまでだけど。
And the episode here, my friend. Thank you for watching my
セ
video.
ーブするわ。
My video is just for fun. Don't take our brothers and sisters. Okay? White ceiling. Oh, finally, we're on the new scene. Magic word time. Adios e famosa.